I am supposed to be getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner right now. And by dinner, I mean like late lunch, because my aunt is having dinner at 2 o'clock. Does anyone else's family do that? Have dinner at lunchtime on Thanksgiving? Because mine does. And actually, it used to drive me nuts when I would cook dinner, and everyone in my family would be like, so we're eating at like 1:30, right? And so I'd have to get up really early to get everything done, and be rushing around and be grumpy because I'm tired. Until a couple years ago, it just hit me like I could have dinner at dinner time. And so now that's what I do, but my aunt doesn't. And so she's having dinner at 2. And so I'm supposed to be getting ready for that. Why did I start telling this story? Because I'm going to take a break from that. Because I have this video I have been needing to record for days now, and I don't think I'm going to have another chance. And also, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very sparkly right now. And why waste the sparkles? So, pausing from getting ready to take advantage of the sparkles, even though I'm still like in a boring sweatshirt. Wow, why all of this? The point is, today I'm going to be doing a review of 3 books that I've read recently. I'm going to try to make the review on the quicker side. I've already failed mostly in that goal just on this intro alone. So today I'm going to be talking about City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, Hearts Unbroken by Cynthia Leidig-Smith, and Toxic by Lydia Kang, which I read digitally and I don't have my phone or my Kindle, so it looks like this. The full synopsis and links to all of the books will be found below. They are all very different from each other and have no real unifying theme to this other than that I have read them recently. You know, variety is the spice of life. So, on to City of Ghosts. It's a middle grade title about a girl whose family is kind of like ghost hunters, and they were invited to do a show of like the world's most haunted places or something, and she starts out, or they start out in Scotland and kind of uproot her and take her along. And kind of turns out that after a near-death experience, she can see ghosts and kind of slip through the veil into where the ghosts are. As you would probably imagine, because it's by Victoria Schwab, I did enjoy it. I don't think that I've read a middle grade book by her, and I don't know actually if she even has another middle grade book, but I think she kind of nailed the middle grade book vibe. And there's something about middle grade ghost stories specifically, like it just seems to be a right format. The camera is shaking and it's not Kimba this time. Let me just pause right here to introduce you to someone. This little kitty isn't Pretty. You've probably met Pretty before. She's our other black cat. This little kitty, this little boy right here, yep, is Mr. Thackeray Zeus Seeger Katzenova Prancer Pouncer Binks. He loves the name, you can tell by the way he shoved me away. Basically, I found him cowering under a car in a parking lot recently, distress calling his little head off. He was so loud that I could actually hear him over the Christmas music that I was jamming. We were about to get a solid weekend of like freezing rain and sleet, and he was so distressed and a little thin, and long story short, he is here now. He is super, super friendly, as was Pretty when we found her. She is also a found cat. I don't know if he was abandoned or if he ran away. We're waiting to see if someone claims him, but I kind of don't think it's going to happen. I think that maybe he was given up. The area that he was in, there's a lot of open fields where people tend to drop off cats, a lot of barns and things like that. And then there was a very, very busy road where all of these stone hauling semis go flying by way too fast, like have been run off the road by them. So he didn't need to stay there. So we have a new edition with many, many names. That's a thing we do in my family where we just, while we're trying to settle on a name, a lot of them happen, and then we add more names, like nicknames, even after we've settled on a name. So all of our pets end up with like 20 variations of something. But with him, when we were trying to settle on an actual name, I was just like, all of them. All of the above. And Zucifer, when he's being bad. Kimba actually likes him, and Kimba doesn't ever like anyone except for his mama. But even me, he bites sometimes, so, you know, swings and roundabouts. Speaking of, they are playing with each other right now on either sides of the door. Oh, they're so cute. Anyway, back to City of Ghosts. So I feel like this is a really solid middle grade, and like I was saying, I think that for whatever reason, middle grade is just really suited to slightly darker ghost stories. I think people can forget how dark middle grade can get. It was very seamless, it flowed very easily, and it was inviting. I liked the world. My only, not really a complaint, but just only thing that I kind of felt as I was reading it that's probably not super positive is that I kind of feel like it could have been written by anyone. It felt a little, not, I don't want to say generic or faceless or something, but I feel like it was exactly what I would have expected to get out of a middle grade ghost story, with nothing kind of so super specific to anyone's style that I would read it and be like, oh, that is so and so. But enjoyable, great for the Halloween season that we just passed, that I should have been talking about it beforehand. If you have a kid that likes ghost stories, or you like ghost stories or middle grade, I don't think you can go wrong. And it has a really good sense of place, probably because Victoria lived there or does live there. So yeah, it's a thumbs up. It was just a little, the tiniest bit, been there, done that, sort of. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger quite on it, but whatever, I liked it anyway. Up next we have Hearts Unbroken, which comes out this month sometime. It just says November, but I think it's, when are you going to be seeing this? It's probably going to have just come out by the time you're seeing this video. This is about a girl who lives in Kansas, and her school is putting on a production of The Wizard of Oz, and the teacher is doing a sort of race-blind casting, sort of inclusive take on the story where anyone could be anyone. So the main character playing Dorothy is black, and there are lots of people in it. It's not just an all-white cast and then some people in like lion costumes, you know? And that's off a chain of events where there is a group formed by some concerned parents who want to have accuracy in their fantasy adaptations and are bothered by the fact that there are people of different races in the parts, and that they feel like there's maybe favoritism or it's affirmative action kind of, and they start a group against it, and there's like harassment going, and there's this whole big debate around it, and basically you could see this happening, you know, this shit does happen. She's kind of caught in the middle of this. She is Native, and her brother is in the play as the Tin Man, and she is a reporter for her school newspaper, and so she's seeing it from both sides. She's interviewing people and seeing the things that they're saying, and she's also seeing what's happening to her brother and her family, who is being told to go home. Keep in mind they're Native. And then at the same time, of course, there's like a romance aspect and whatever. This kind of, I've read one thing by Cynthia Leidick-Smith before, and remember not being super impressed with it, but I couldn't remember why, and I think that this refreshed my memory a bit. I really like the story elements. I like the plot and even how it fits together. But there's something in the writing that feels so lacking to me, especially in the beginning. It really felt like she was trying to just brush past like the first half of the book and try to get into when things really start really happening. And it felt so abrupt sometimes. Not quite as stilted as saying, and then this happened, and then that happened, but just like a little bit jumpy, really not fleshed out in the beginning, and the transitions sometimes were non-existent. Like I would actually flip back and be like, wait, did some pages stick together? Because how did we go from this to that? And it felt a little personality-less, not in the main character, because I think that she felt real, she felt like she had a personality, but in the actual storytelling, it felt a little like a rough draft almost. And I mean that in the way that sometimes when you're writing and you just want to get through that rough draft so you can start perfecting it, you'll give a very bare bones approach to some areas so that you can get through them and get onto the thing that you want to write. And then you need to go back, once you know your whole story, you know your characters better, you go back, you flesh it out, you add the things that need to be added to make the connections from the beginning to the middle to the end. It stops reading like a list, like your sort of story outline, and more like an actual story. And this felt like those early outline-ish stages. I tore through it. I mean, I read this, I read it in like 2 sittings. Maybe because it wasn't as fleshed out. Maybe that's why there wasn't as much to read. But I don't know, I kept thinking like, maybe I should just give up on this. Maybe I should just give up on this. But I would keep going. So it's not like there wasn't anything, you know, holding me in the story. But it really did feel underdone. It felt underdeveloped and just, I don't know, I felt a real disconnect with it, which lessened as it went on, but I don't think that ever went away. The other thing that kind of drove me nuts, although it comes around eventually, is the main character. She does some really boneheaded things where, like, she'll be calling out racism or being very sensitive to certain things that maybe was meant as an insult, maybe wasn't, maybe it was just someone's ignorance, and that is all completely valid, especially in a story like this where you are trying to show what someone does live through and how all those little things add up, but then she'll go and do the same shit to people, and it's like, well, you fucking hypocrite. And I thought that it was just gonna remain like that, but she actually at some point kind of does realize, like, I'm doing to them what they've done to me type of thing. So I think that was actually good. But in the beginning I was like a little frustrated by her. And that, combined with being frustrated by the actual mechanics of the story, was kind of keeping me disconnected and keeping me from really loving it. I do think that it is an interesting story and will be great for discussion. And if you like Cynthia's style, then obviously you'll have no problem with it. She is popular, people do love her, so of course there will be those that won't have any of the issues that I've had. But if you've read her in the past, or as you're reading it you start to notice some of the things that I've talked about that just are keeping you from loving it, it might not ever make up that ground for you. Because even though I flew through it, and even though I did like, you know, sort of how things turn out and how people find their voices and take a stand, and even how sort of accurate it feels in the casual racism that it represents, how people will justify anything to not be considered racist even though what they're doing is clearly racist. I think it did portray those things very well, but at times it just really needed to push more, and it needed to be fuller and richer and more written than it was. I'm really on the fence about it, but I think there will be people that will love it and people that will find themselves in it, and that's always a good thing. And of course I'm reading an arc, so maybe in the final version some of those issues will be addressed and it will feel more full, but as I said, I read something by her before and I remember having major issues with it, so I feel like that just might be her style, and maybe her style is not for me. And the last book that I read recently that I want to talk about is Toxic by Lydia Kang. This one is a far future sci-fi about a biomechanical ship, a living ship, that is home to a girl who is kind of secret and hidden away. She was created on the ship, and the ship and her mother who created her hide her from everyone because she's, you know, you have a finite amount of resources on a ship in the middle of space, and that means that you have a very set amount of people that are allowed to be there, and she is not. But then something catastrophic happens, everyone abandons ship, and she's left. So the book is set in the aftermath of that and what is happening to the ship and to her and to a crew of people who come to figure out what's going on. I really had no idea what to expect going into this. I have one other book by Lydia called The November Girl that I had tried to read when that was coming out and couldn't get into, but I think it was mostly my mood at the time. That and being spoiled for choice, because I remember having just a ton of stuff that I needed to dig into all the time, and I just couldn't seem to focus on any of them. It was like this total magpie moment. I wanted to give this one a try. I'm so glad that I did give it a try because I really love this. It's very different. I feel like in style and in tone, it doesn't really feel like anything else that I've read recently. It has its own vibe. It does feel alien. It does feel, you know, super future, while also still remaining realistic and relatable. I think that Lydia Kang did a really great job of kind of capturing the science aspect and making that feel believable. I can't say whether it is because I certainly haven't researched like biomechanics at all. It feels like there is research. It feels like she knew what she was talking about when she went into it, whether it's because it's something that she cares about or whether because she got, you know, some expert input. It feels like a solid basis for the world and what is going on, which is possibly the number one needed thing for me when you're talking about sci-fi. I need to feel like the world is propped up by the science. It needs to actually make sense, seem like it could play out this way, and not have any like glaring loopholes or inconsistencies, because that would totally break me right out of the fiction aspect of science fiction. Beyond just feeling realistic and well supported. It was just engaging. It was a really fascinating world. It's this very sort of insular thing. There are only a handful of characters, and there only can be a handful of characters because they're on a ship in the middle of space. Things are happening that are very catastrophic, and that is something that I feel like I talk about a lot, where there are consequences to things. So often, in YA especially, but in a lot of books, you'll have these huge, like, doomsday things going on, but you never have any fear that everyone's going to survive it. And that's so frustrating. If you're going to have, it's Chekhov's gun. If you're going to have the gun needs to be fired. If you're going to have these horrible, potentially life-altering or life-ending circumstances, someone's life either better be altered or ended. And in this, the consequences feel real. Things happen. You don't know that everyone's going to survive it. You don't know that everyone's going to come out unscathed. You don't know that it's going to have a happy ending. Things are happening. Things are going down. The dominoes are falling. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And I so very much appreciate that. Beyond that, I think it did the kind of romance aspect well. It did the character interactions of all of these different character types from different backgrounds coming together, along with this girl who's never had any interaction with anyone, literally anyone, other than the person that created her and the ship that she's hidden in. Her interactions with people I think were done really well. It was just fascinating and flowed and was engaging beginning to end. I really don't think that I had any negatives about it, honestly. I enjoyed it. I ate it up. It was what I wanted from sort of romantic sci-fi. Not super hard, not hard to get into, not too dense in the science, not too cheesy in the romance. Like, everything just felt really, really balanced and successful. So, obviously, thumbs up. I recommend it. And that is what I have to say about Toxic and all of the rest. This video did not in any way, shape, or form end up the quick, short video that I had intended. And I know that because I can feel how I'm about to get hoarse from talking so long. And also, I really should have gotten back to getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner by now. So that is where I'm going to end this video. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you have read or want to read any of these books, or have read or want to read these authors, and if you kind of know what I'm talking about on some of these things. Science supporting aspect of sci-fi, or the ghostly middle grade thing, or the kind of personality-less thing, my issues that I had with Cynthia Leidig Smith, whatever it is. If you know, if you feel me, let's chat about it in the comments, because I feel like I had a lot of things to say in this video. But anyway, that is all for now. Thank you guys, of course, for watching, and until next time, happy reading!